You're tuning into the deep dive because, well, you want to cut through the noise, really understand what's going on.
Exactly. No surface level stuff here.
And today, we're tackling a topic that it, it touches so many lives, right? How kids behave in school
Mm-hmm.
and how that links up with their academic performance.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big one.
It really is. And we're grounding this in some pretty significant research, a meta-analysis.
Right. Study of studies. What kind of scope are we talking about here?
Well, this one pulls together findings from 70 different independent studies, longitudinal ones.
70.
Yeah. And get this, it involves over 124,000 students in total.
Okay, that's a massive sample size. So it's looking at how these two things, behavior and academics, influence each other over time.
Precisely. Not just a snapshot, but how they predict one another as kids develop.
Got it. So think of it like getting the whole movie reel, not just one picture.
That's a good way to put it.
And our mission, really, in this deep dive is to boil down what this huge amount of data actually tells us. What's the core relationship?
And also what factors might, make that connection even stronger.
Right. The key takeaways, basically. A shortcut to being genuinely informed on this. Ready to jump in.
Let's do it.
Okay, so the headline finding seems to be this idea of a bidirectional relationship. What's that mean in plain English?
At its core, it means it works both ways. How students act out things like being disruptive or having trouble paying attention,
Yeah.
that can predict lower academic performance down the road.
Okay, makes sense. Bad behavior impacts grades.
But crucially, it also goes the other way.
Ah, so struggling academically.
Exactly. If a student's having a hard time with their schoolwork, that can actually predict an increase in these externalizing behaviors later on.
So they're feeding each other like a constant feedback loop.
That's the idea. It's not just a one-way street. It's more like this negative cycle potentially setting up.
Right. Now, the study puts some numbers on this. They mention effect sizes.
Mm-hmm.
R equals minus 0.082 and then is 0.076.
Okay.
For those of us not swimming in stats daily.
Yeah, fair enough.
How strong is that connection, really? Are those big numbers?
Well, statistically speaking, across that huge sample, they are significant. But in terms of the size of the effect, they're considered small.
Small.
Yeah.
So it doesn't mean much.
No, not quite. Think of it less like a massive immediate impact. One bad day doesn't suddenly tank a kid's GPO.
Okay.
It's more like a subtle but really consistent push or nudge in a negative direction over time across lots and lots of kids.
Oh, I get it. So not a dramatic crash for one individual necessarily, but a consistent downward trend when you look at the big picture.
Exactly. Like two boats tied together, both
Right.
with very slow leaks, they gradually pull each other down.
Okay, that visual helps. It's a gradual wearing down effect. Now, the researchers didn't just stop there, right? They looked at what might make this connection stronger.
They did. They looked for moderators, factors that changed the strength of that relationship.
And what popped out? What makes the impact of, say, externalizing behavior on academic performance worse?
One really key thing was inattention-related behavior. When kids weren't just acting out, but also had significant trouble focusing or paying attention,
Yeah.
that combination seemed to predict a much stronger negative hit on their academic performance later.
Well, that just makes intuitive sense, doesn't it?
Hmm.
If you're disruptive and you can't focus on what the teacher's saying,
Right. Learning gets pretty difficult.
definitely harder to absorb the material. What else amplified this effect?
Another interesting one was the time interval between measurements.
The timing. How so?
The predictive power of externalizing behavior on later academic performance was actually stronger when the gap between measuring behavior and measuring academics was shorter.
So behavior in September is a better predictor of grades in, say, December than it is of grades next June.
That's what the analysis suggests, yeah.
Why would that be, do you think? Any ideas?
Well, one possibility is that the negative consequences of the behavior, like missing instruction time, maybe getting sent out of class, have a more immediate and direct impact on learning.
Okay, the cause and effect are closer together.
Right, whereas over a longer period, maybe other things come into play, other supports, or maybe things get worse for other reasons. It gets more complex.
Gotcha. Like dropping a pebble in a pond, the ripples are clearest right away.
Good analogy.
Okay, now, there's another finding reported here, and we're just relaying what the meta-analysis found in the data across these studies.
Yes, important to be clear on that.
It observed that this link, externalizing behaviors predicting lower academic performance, was stronger in studies that included fewer white participants.
That's correct. That was an observed statistical finding from pooling the results of those 70 studies.
Right, just reporting that observation directly from the source material. Okay, let's shift a bit. What about age? Does this whole dynamic change as kids get older?
It seems to interact with that time interval factor we just talked about.
How so?
The finding was that as children get older, that stronger effect seen with shorter time intervals becomes even more pronounced.
Okay, wait. So for older kids, the immediate fallout from acting out hits their grades even harder than for younger kids.
That seems to be the implication. The short-term link gets stronger with age.
Why might that be? Maybe the schoolwork gets harder, so missing even a little bit matters more.
That's definitely a plausible explanation. As the curriculum gets more complex, sequential, those immediate gaps caused by disruption or inattention might be harder to catch up from.
Right. The stakes feel higher academically as you move up.
Yeah.
Okay, that covers how behavior impacts academics pretty well. Let's
Yeah.
flip the coin now.
All right. Academics impacting behavior.
Yeah. How does struggling in school influence a child's externalizing behaviors? What did the meta-analysis show there?
Well, guess what pops up again?
Let me guess. Inattention.
You got it. Inattention-related behavior. It seems that when academic struggles are present, especially if they're tied to difficulties with focus and attention,
Yeah.
those struggles are more strongly predictive of increased externalizing behaviors later on.
So it's not just acting out makes learning hard, but finding learning hard, especially if you can't focus, might lead to acting out.
Exactly. It suggests that the frustration or perhaps the feeling of failure associated with academic difficulty, particularly when attention is also an issue, can manifest as behavior problems.
I can totally see that. Imagine feeling lost in class all the time.
Mm.
It could definitely lead to frustration, maybe acting out just to cope or get attention some other way.
It's a very understandable, though obviously counterproductive, response for some kids.
What else strengthened this link from poor academics to more behavior issues?
How the externalizing behavior was reported mattered.
How it was reported, meaning,
The link between poor academic performance and later externalizing behaviors was stronger when those behaviors were reported by teachers specifically.
interesting. Teacher reports. Could that involve perception? Like if a teacher knows a child struggles academically, maybe they're more attuned to noticing behavioral slips.
That's certainly a possibility worth considering. It could reflect reality, or it could involve a bit of maybe a confirmation bias loop. The data shows the link is stronger with teacher reports.
A potential feedback loop involving perception.
Okay.
What about subjects? Did struggling in like math versus reading make a difference?
Yes, it did. Difficulties specifically in literacy-related performance. So reading and writing showed a stronger connection to later externalizing behaviors compared to other academic areas looked at.
Literacy. Why do you think reading and writing would be more critical here?
Well, think about it. Literacy is just so fundamental, isn't it?
Yeah, it's everywhere in school.
Great. If you can't read the instructions or the textbook or write your assignments effectively, you're going to struggle in history and science, even in math word problems. It's a barrier across the board.
That makes complete sense. It leads to such widespread difficulty and frustration. School itself becomes a negative place.
And that widespread struggle seems more likely to spill over into behavioral issues.
Okay. And one more factor here.
Hmm.
Just overall academic standing.
Yeah.
Like GPA or grades in general.
Yes, that was also significant. A lower overall academic standing, just generally doing poorly in school, was predictive of an increase in externalizing behaviors down the line.
So it reinforces the whole picture. Struggling academically, whether it's overall or specifically with fundamentals like literacy, especially if attention is also an issue, increases the odds of behavioral problems showing up later.
Precisely. It really paints a clear picture of this two-way street.
Yeah, you see it from both directions now. Whether it's behavior impacting grades or grades impacting behavior, they are definitely intertwined.
Deeply intertwined. And factors like attention, how behavior is reported, the specific academic area, and the time frame, they all modulate that connection.
Okay, we have really dug into the weeds of this meta-analysis.
Yeah.
So for everyone listening, if we had to sum it all up, what's the absolute core takeaway?
I think the main message is that you really can't look at a child's externalizing behaviors and their academic performance as separate things.
Right, they're linked.
They're dynamically linked. They influence each other continuously. And understanding that bidirectional relationship is, well, it's crucial.
Crucial for parents, for teachers, for anyone involved with kids. Knowing about the things that make the link stronger, like attention issues or literacy struggles, gives potential points for intervention, maybe.
Potentially,
Yeah.
yes. Recognizing the cycle is the first step.
Okay. It's about seeing that whole interconnected picture.
Yeah.
Which brings us then to our final thought for you, the listener, to mull over.
All right.
Given everything we've discussed, this two-way street, the factors that strengthen the negative cycle, what's maybe one small change? Just one. Either in a child's learning environment or maybe in how we approach their behavior. That could potentially disrupt this cycle.
Hmm.
Think about those factors. Attention, timing, literacy. Could a small shift there create some positive ripples instead? Something to think about. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.